Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rated and reviewed all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. Today, welcome to the finale, the last episode of Season 1. I'm Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
I'm Umberto, my pronouns are he, him.
I am Plumas, and my pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Trevor, and my pronouns are he, him.
So, hello everyone. We have two lovely guests with us today. We have Plumas and Trevor here helping us to decide which the final king is, which is the one that is the greatest, which is the one that is most lovely out of all the ones we have covered. Which
Lovely? Is that the word we're going for? Okay, cool.
Interesting. Let's say interesting. Yes, let's go for that.
Oh, thank you so much, guys, for inviting us. I am very excited. And also, I'm very excited to be here with Trevor, which is someone I've admired through the years a lot. So,
Thank you.
That's really cute of you guys.
Yes, thanks
you
for
coming on
having
the
us.
podcast.
So just for those who don't know and have been living under a rock, Plumas does a divulgación project called Las Plumas de Simurg.
Oh, you pronounce it perfectly,
Thank you.
Umberto.
Which is essentially about general Iranian and Mesopotamian history and art history. And she's an actual doctor and everything. So it's very impressive.
Thank you. I am an actual doctor.
We brought actual experts
Yes,
with
actual
like
people who know what
degrees
they're
for this
talking
last
about.
episode, you know.
And Trevor, of course, does the history of Persia, covering everything we've been doing, but in like a lot more detail. So I think you're at the Seleucids roughly at this point.
Yes, in the middle of Antiochus II right now.
Okay, good.
Which is, I think you all passed me up around Artaxerxes II.
It was a bit ago, yes. We had the Cyrus the Younger special, I think, when we crossed over, which was a few years ago now.
Yeah, and that was even a little after you had done that on your show.
Well, because Trevor knows the best part of the Iranian history is the Achaemenid part. So he knows he's a man of finesse.
I'm hearing a bit of bias here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying this, but I'm going to heavily disagree with basically everything he says because I want my candidate to win, which is obnoxiously
today
obvious.
I am Sassanid the entire way.
Why?
Through and through.
Because today, Plumas is going to be vouching for Darius I, Darius the Great, Darayavush, Dara, the boy, and telling us why he's the best and he deserves everything.
I am so happy to know that he made it this far because I remember when they did the Darayavush episodes, I would say, because he features in more than one. That should give you a hint, Trevor. Who does your candidate feature in more than one episode?
Khosrow does have two episodes.
It could just be that we have a lot of sources.
Khosrow has two parts. It's great.
But I remember when you guys did Dara, I told Umberto and Salir, I'm going to be so mad if Dara doesn't make it to the final. As in properly mad at you because we're friends. Like, it's going to be entirely your fault.
Correct. And well, instead, Trevor is going to be vouching for Khosrow II, Khosrow Parviz, the last good ruler of the Sassanid Empire. And he's dramatic. He has a two-parter episode. He has the second longest episode after Alexander the Great. So
that's not a good example. You don't follow Iskandar's example. I'm sorry, Sariel. We disagree in this, but no, like no, no.
Well,
Never mind. We are going for interesting and.
Exactly.
Alexander
didn't make
it
into the finale, so
Alexander was kicked out early in the round. So
thank
we agreed.
Ahura Mazda and the Heptad entirely. Because
thank me who kicked him out.
Correct,
well, you are part of the Heptad now, so that makes 8 instead of 7.
So now what we're going to do is essentially go through the different rounds, and our two advocates will speak in favor for their kings, and Cyril and I will get to decide on each step who we think is winning. And then at the end, they'll have one last chance to vouch for their candidate. And then Cyril and I will decide who actually wins, who wins all of So You Think You Could Rule Persia, who really can rule Persia.
Should we address you as Your Honor whenever the other has a question? Like, objection, Your Honor.
No.
Yes, of course.
Please.
Point of order.
Okay, so in that case, without any further ado, let's all start up with battle hardness. So how good were they at war and fighting? And I'll say, let's start with Trevor first, and then Plumas can go on second.
Well, this is really where Khosrow gets to shine, because he very nearly conquered the entire Eastern Roman Empire, right up to the gates of Constantinople. He's the first king to get back into Egypt since the Achaemenids, unless you count some weird things with Antiochus III.
Some weird things you
The
say.
Romans wagged their finger at him and he left, so I don't count that.
Poor baby, though. Poor baby.
And he started his reign jumping directly into conflict by usurping his father in order to fight a civil war against Bahram Chobin. He then got run out of the country, picked up a Byzantine army, came back, beat Bahram in several battles, forced Bahram to flee. Then he had a brief civil war against his uncle Bishtam after he assassinated his other uncle. And that civil war did not go perfectly for Khosrow, but he did come out and remain king in the end, despite some battlefield losses, before turning around and helping the exiled would-be Roman Emperor Theodosius to reclaim his territory until Theodosius mysteriously vanished into thin air just as they were getting close to Constantinople.
We don't talk
But
about
they
that.
were close
Okay.
enough that why not continue conquering large chunks of Anatolia, besieging Constantinople, taking the Holy Land, and conquering Egypt, which he
If you're
held
already
for
there,
20
you know.
years before something happened at Nineveh that I don't need to talk about.
And we don't talk about that either.
No, terrible things happen. We don't need to know. Okay, thank you. Good points, Trevor. And Plumas, how about you?
Okay.
What do you have to say?
So, if we're talking battle harness, Dada is conflict. He is battle because he started it in a perfectly not so awful empire. Cambyses was doing his best, and then bam! He killed, because I'm pretty sure he did, not himself, but I wish it was himself. He killed the true heirs of the throne and said, "This land is mine because I can't do this." And then should we list, Thrace, Macedon, Scythia, the Indus Valley, the conquest, the first at least, the conquest of all the eastern side of Greece and what we know, all the shebang with the Greek people, the reconquest of Ionia. Do you say Ionia in English?
Ionia, yeah.
Okay, I was going to say Ionia, but yeah, Ionia.
Either
And
or.
the thing is, he not just expanded significantly the territory, but the boundaries made it to Europe and the Indus Valley. That was the largest piece of land ever owned by just a single person. And he was fierce. Do we talk about Babylonia or do we don't talk about Babylonia? Because apparently that's a sensitive matter. You see, he suppressed multiple rebellions. Oh, true. We can argue that he himself created. Yes. Yes.
He did
Both
he did the Apple
Was his
strategy.
fault,
We're going to
yes.
make a problem and then build the solution and market it to you.
Exactly. And that's why I think he's brilliant, because all the campaign was not just military, but it was blunt propaganda. Like Persepolis is the main reason I'm using this word, but not honestly. Like, he entered Egypt after he lost it, but he did enter in Egypt, and in fact he is the only Achaemenid Iranian king which has 360 surrounding statue of himself as a pharaoh, and I've seen it, and it's gorgeous. It's beheaded, but it's gorgeous. And he reached Libya and all the eastern part, the Sogdiana, Bactria, Gandhara, Arachosia. Like that was impressive of him, because also he managed to do this campaign in which he started recruiting more and more and more people and substituting generals for having them to have their due. So he is a strategic genius. Maybe it was not him, but as like I always say, we don't know if he personally did those things, but he was smart enough to surround himself with the proper people to conquer basically half of the known world.
That's fair. Very good points. So, Cyril, what we decided during their specific episodes are Darius got an 18 out of 20 for battle hardness, while Khosrow got a 12 out of 20 for battle hardness. Mostly because he loses it all at the end. In Darius's offense, he loses it all at the start.
But that looks better. That
But
looks
he-
better because then eventually you get it back.
Exactly.
You
That's
know?
the point. Like Sariel said, he created a problem so he could be the one solving it.
I'm not a huge fan of that, but I will admit that works really well.
He's brilliant, though.
It's just so scammy of him, but
He is.
that's his whole deal. So
I know.
There's a reason he was very popular at that.
Yeah, I know that the Bacha, like my Bacha who listen to this podcast, are going to be horrified that I'm not vouching for Xerxes, which I tirelessly.
Xerxes isn't here today. It's fine.
I know, because I really I defend him a lot, but my heart is with that. Like just
That's fair.
But also, if we're going for battle hardness, it's not entirely Xerxes' fault, but he's not going to win that competition.
exactly.
No.
no.
But also, on the battle hardness side, you could say that maybe Dara had less hard enemies than the Romans.
Hey,
I would say unbiasedly, separate from the fact that I am here today to defend Khosrow.
Yes.
Well, yeah, he was fighting a bunch of rebels that popped up kind of overnight. And did he fight all of them? I seem to remember 2 out of 3 Elamite rebels were just kind of handed over to him after saying, I'm king now.
I am
And
sorry,
Babylon
gonna
rebelled
accuse me.
As soon as he left. I don't think you effectively conquer a place if you have to be standing there for them to not
Yeah.
rebel.
Good.
I
point.
am really, really, really sorry. But last time I checked, the Romans were a continuous problem. So at least that solved things and put an end on things for few years. The Romans were constantly there. They never left.
How'd that go with Athens?
Poorly, terribly.
If we're talking about continuous problems.
But because they found moments in which they were not killing each other with the Spartans and they realized the Persians were there. So it was like, hey, it's just a matter of perspective. Also, I didn't know that for battle hardness, you required to be there. He still got an 18 in his episode. And fighting in the Transoxiana, in the eastern part of the empire, is not easy at all.
If we're going for when they're not there, I think Darius is most effective when he is there. Yeah, in the Behistun inscription,
Allegedly.
he struggles to get into Armenia and Media until he deals with it in person and loses Babylon in the process. He goes to Europe, and then as soon as he leaves, they lose most of the territory they had at least passed through in Europe.
But because
They
is
go to Greece
the
without him.
empire.
And they don't perform very well in Greece without him present. It's really the Aeolian Revolt. It's the only example I can think of where Darius isn't physically present, where they are particularly successful. Whereas Khosrow is a delegator. He's got vassals who stand up to him despite religion, despite circumstance. While he's losing in Nineveh, his Georgian tributaries are actively defending against the Turkic invasion, despite Rome trying to convince them to surrender. Shabaraz is delegated responsibility for controlling basically all of the Roman conquest, which backfires for the empire as a whole after Khosrow is out of the picture. But in Khosrow's time, he's sending out generals very successfully without needing to be present as a piece of propaganda himself on the battlefield.
I thought we were judging the kings, not the rest of the people working for the kings.
Okay, so I think we've made good arguments so far. Serial, who
think?
Who are you most impressed by?
This is a hard choice.
Are you leaning more in one direction or another?
I think that obviously they're both very impressive in their achievements militarily, right?
Yes.
I do think it's, better for Darius that he managed to keep what he tried to conquer. But also, how much of it... I have such a hard time believing everything about Darius because some of it is just blatant lies.
Of
and
course.
Some of it
It's going to be a bonus
That's the
later on, but yes.
and some of it is
Absolutely.
so far off in like the past that it might as well just not have happened. What is your opinion, Umberto?
I think that
I'm really sorry. If we're talking about
Yes.
lies, are we having the Shahnameh as a source? Because he should not be had. He should not be had as a source.
there are other sources. There's good stuff.
Thomas, I was quietly keeping that to myself.
No. I mean, as much as I love that book, and you guys know I live and breathe that book, that's
Yes.
not a reliable source.
Oh, history? Yeah, no.
No.
But yeah, so for battle hardness, I think that, I mean, if we're looking at just raw success, Darius clearly takes it because, I mean, he isn't executed by his son. That's pretty good as outcomes go.
But that's also a little bit unfair, I would say. Because Khosrow, and I would say of all the Achaemenids, and Umberto knows this is true, Khosrow Parviz is the only one I will stay with. He's the only one I would forgive his Sasanian-ness. But he had all the things in mind, so he didn't see it coming. So I think it's unfair.
No, that's fair. I'm just thinking that if we're looking at battle hardness, I am more impressed by Darius having to reconquer the empire. But I'm more impressed by Darius, but I think Khosrow had a harder job.
Fair, yeah. To me, what stands out of Darius is exactly what Trevor was saying, that he's somehow, it's a paternal way of not patronizing, but paternal. When your parents tell you, do I have to go myself? If I stand up, if I go myself, and then they have to do it in the end because it's like, I'm sorry, you have to. We don't know what we're doing here. Would you mind?
So, Sarah, I would be inclined to give this one to Darius. What do you think?
That was also my inclination.
Okay, very well. Then
yeah.
Don't worry, Trevor. I'm going to lose miserably at final moments because he just died.
Well,
Yeah.
so that's one of my thoughts here is that your main categories that you're judging these finalists on eliminate the three categories where Khosrow is really clearly going to excel.
yes, I mean that's
Actually,
good. That's
this is a
good to be at
good
the
point
end. Yes.
because we have already measured them in these categories, so we could just go off of our, the scores that we've already given them. Just like, oh, Darius had an 18 on this one, and Khosrow had a 12, and like we've already done this. So I think we should allow our two experts here to actually bring up what they think is
As like
important
distinct.
and distinct about these two kings.
Yes, definitely. But I'd say we can look since we were mentioning it before, we can look at general, plots and shocking factors that we have here.
Come on.
Who is
on.
there? Because they both do some pretty shocking things, and they're both good at manipulating others. So, well, this time, I guess, Plumas, you can start on this category and tell us why is Dara so schemy and bizarre? Who hurt him?
I actually have no idea. I want to think that his ambition was just there. from the start. It's not, to me, in the character I constructed of him in my mind, it's not the result of anybody hurting him. It's just like one of my favorite songs says, I want the world and everything in it. And that's it. So Dara not only pretends to create a coup d'etat in which both Cambyses and Bardia, poor Bardia, a baby,
Yeah, he's just there.
he's just there twice or 3 times
Yeah.
if you believe some
Killed
sources.
so much, yes.
So he
Just doesn't
respawns.
die. A ghost.
It's like the worst video game
Phantom.
ever is Bardia's life.
Dies
So-
and reappears in Patagadai.
Haven't I killed you already? So he not only manipulates because I'm not going to retell everything he does, but basically he takes the throne from the true heirs and the true sons of Kurosh, of Cyrus. And to me, the Master T is not just doing that, as in, oh, I'm killing the true heirs and I'm placing myself as the true king of this land. To me, is everything that goes beyond it. The full campaign in which Dara made the world believe for so long that that had been the case. We truly don't know what happened, how happened, or which sources were lying, which were telling the truth. Maybe Herodotus was telling the truth after all. I don't like him at all, so I don't think that's the case. But, you know, we will never know. And for me, that's the masterty of that shock factor. You will never know. You choose to believe which narrative to adhere to, because you will never know. And the fact is that in the end, he stood as king and he maintained himself as king. And I'm going to leave my latest thought for the final moments, because there is one reason in which my main goal in here is directing the conversation towards being able to say why I think he should be the king of kings.
Yes,
of
of
kings.
course. Those are the final statements, of course.
So that's and also it really depends of what we take as shock factor, because to me, shocking is the fact that he conducted such an important unity and cooperation campaign through art. I'm an art historian, and this is what I do. You know, that to me, the whole building of Persepolis, the whole decoration of the place, and everything that was put, there's nothing that's there not on purpose. There's nothing that's free. Everything's planned and carefully tailored to deliver a message. And to me, that's shocking that he chose, instead of portraying his battles as a bloodshedding king, brutal, a murderer, a conqueror, like authors before him, he chose something completely different. To me, that's shocking. That's incredible. Shocking is the fact that he rearranged the road system, the post system, that he created he minted his own coin, the Darik, and that to me is shocking, because it was the year 525 before Common Era. It's just incredible. And the trilingual court he had, Elamite, all Persian and Assyrian, because he wanted everyone to understand that he was boss. He's perfect. He never did anything wrong.
Well, Trevor, tell us instead why was Khosrow shocking? Why would you vouch for him?
So, Khosrow is shocking. We're doing shock right now.
Yeah, shocking
I
and
have
scheming,
thoughts
I
of-
guess, is
They kind of overlap
yes.
with these
Yeah,
two. So both of them open up with a shocking plot to usurp a king. In Darius's case, it's a fourth cousin once removed or something along those lines. And in Khosrow's case, it's his own father. And with the help of his uncles, Khosrow takes the throne, if briefly, and then gets run out, but he comes back. There's a lot of kings and exiles and princes in exile throughout Iranian history, but you don't get a lot of them join forces with their mortal enemies, the Romans, and cede land to the Roman Empire in order to come back and reclaim Iran. But that's what Khosrow did. And then he assassinates one uncle and then assassinates the second uncle after Bishtam's revolt. Turns around, sees a civil war in Rome, takes Theodosius, and invades the empire that just sponsored his rise to power. And then midway through, kind of abandons all pretense to say, actually, I'm the reverse Alexander. I bow to nobody. I take no compromise. I am going to conquer your entire empire, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Except in his case, there was, which is almost more shocking that Alexander had that unbeatable record. And Khosrow already at that point had several battlefield losses, both against Bahram and against his uncles, and then still had the audacity to say, no, I'm going to conquer the Romans. And then he mostly did it, which in itself is shocking. He almost doubled the size of his empire in the span of just a few years and held it for decades while the Romans were besieged, to the point that Emperor Heraclius almost considered abandoning Constantinople itself and moving the Roman capital to Carthage, of all places.
Whoa.
It didn't plan out, but they were up to the brink in a way that if they had had a navy in the Black Sea, they might have been able to pull it off.
Tad dramatic, your boy.
Then everything turns against him. And you get the shocking death of, he returns to try and figure out what to do next after the Battle of Nineveh. He has some breathing space because flooding has destroyed dams and opened up the rivers so that the Romans couldn't actually get into Ctesiphon, but that wasn't enough. And his own son imprisons him, and he accepts his fate upon realizing that he can't escape, stoically goes to be imprisoned, and is executed being shot full of arrows. Where I think Darius's death story is, and he died.
Yeah.
Yes.
We will
Like,
get to
like
that
I,
later, but
like I
yes.
said, Dara didn't get his points in final moments because he just.
He got a round 0 in final moments, while Khosrow got the maximum score.
I mean, because Khosrow he's really, really the material for creating an epic tale fantasy. I keep on saying this: the moment authors discover the Middle East,
Right? Yeah.
If I ever have any free time, I'm writing a novel about it. But
he is a tragic character.
he is. Umberto, if you're busy doing all the things that we discussed of Mike, you're not going to have time.
No, definitely not. But in a wonderful world where I do, then yes.
That would be a fantasy.
Yeah. So the scores we gave Cyril, just to remind you, we gave Darius a 20 for scheminess and a 14 for shock factor, while we gave Khosrow II a 14 for scheminess and a 14 for shock factor. Have the opinions so far swayed you either way?
I have to say, it is wild to me that Khosrow gets sponsored by the Romans to get his throne, and then immediately is like, you know what, I'm going to fight you guys. Thanks for the help. That is
great.
Beautiful.
That's wonderful.
The bit that I love about Khosrow is just the hubris when the Senate comes up to him and says, we give up. You can pick the Roman emperor. It's okay. It's over. And he's like, actually, no, I just want to conquer you.
I want more. Yeah. That was his undoing.
And Khosrow chose violence.
Yeah, and he chose wrong. And
he so did. But he's
it is such
so
a good
dramatic.
tale of hubris. It would make for such a good story. I don't know why people are sleeping on this. But
exactly.
Authors,
yeah.
Authors listening to this podcast, get to work.
This is what happens when you want to mold your life after Alexander. Because the things that he did are just in a level of luck alone, just not normal.
Literally the fatal flaw of every conquering king after Alexander is
Yep.
thinking they're Alexander.
Yep.
Just
Just
statistically, there had to
See?
be one Alexander, and that was all we got.
Because they're like,
Oh,
but
God,
I am as
no.
great as he was. And it's like, well, first of all, maybe, but he was also quite unhinged. Second of all, he didn't get to do all of that just because he was great. Like, a lot of it truly comes down to luck. So, do you want to roll those dice? I mean, a choice.
As a game designer, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Dude,
Well, yes.
I dare
Let's go
you.
for it.
Like,
And Darius III rolled a nat 1.
Yeah, that was not good.
perfect. Stop. What- don't,
So yeah,
don't.
So, Darius is quite shocking and obviously quite manipulative. He
Yeah.
makes a whole fake story for himself, that fake history that is going to prevail for like centuries after.
And to me, it's not just that he made it, because he could be,
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, he could be, a crazy, an old man yelling in a cloud. But to me,
Yeah.
the shocking thing is that he forced everyone to believe it. And this was stored as proper history for centuries. If that's not what an evil mastermind does, I don't know what it is. Well, that and, tearing off your friend's ears. But that's for the show.
that's
not me.
unfortunate. Yes.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of a wash between the two of them, because it's also very unclear if the plot to overthrow Hormizd IV was Khosrow's idea or primarily the uncle's idea or a combination of both.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that the one crack in Darius's story, the story that became the default of history for everybody forever until we had the full archaeological picture, is that in Herodotus, the scheme, the plot to overthrow Bardia, is not Darius's idea. That
Yeah.
idea comes from Otanes and Gobryas, and they just drag Gobryas' son-in-law along for the ride.
Yes, but Herodotus, to me, is really, really biased because of the proximity of his work to the oh, I forgot how to say this in English.
Greco-Persian Wars.
Really?
That's what I'd say.
Oh wow! I was gonna say that the Median was. I was like literally translated.
Yeah, las guerras médicas.
Las guerras médicas, nothing to do with doctors.
The medicine.
yes. But yes, we
The
have
medical
like,
wars.
the medical wars. Yeah. So because of his proximity to this conflict, and there was this intention of acknowledging the Iranians as something exotic, interesting yet exotic, and the creation of figure such as Dada was very interesting from a narrative and history creating point of view, because you see how he barely concedes anything to him. He talks about his generals, he talks about the people surrounding him, but not him. So of course I am absolutely on this boat with you. We don't know whose idea was this. Zero knowledge. We will never know unless someone has a Ouija board over here and we can consult him from the dead. But Trevor, you know me, I never take Herodotus seriously. It's just
As
we
you
have
should
too
not.
we have too much history between the two of us.
It's just that one key, that is such a key aspect of the narrative that Darius is crafting, that slips through as something that gets reported in relatively close proximity from a source that otherwise reproduces the Behistun narrative fairly consistently with more detail. But it shifts the impetus away from Darius.
Just because of the sake of argument, we're talking about someone that said that there were 5 million people in the Thermopylae.
Yes.
But it could be that he just didn't know how to count. He knew how to write, he didn't know how to count. One,
Not
two,
a mouse
three.
guy. Yeah.
I do love the interpretation that Herodotus knew Persian, but not very well, and might have gotten the words for 1,100 mixed in his head.
To be completely fair, they
that'd be
are
fun.
similar.
Which
They
and
are similar.
a flaw in Herodotus that is suggested as a solution to a lot of his weirder stories about Iran. That, oh, this word is kind of similar. You can see how somebody might mix it up if they were speaking ancient Greek. And the fact that that is proposed as a solution to so many things just makes it feel more plausible to me.
Yeah, like that and
It
the
happened
giant ants
multiple
and everything.
times.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. But yeah, so Serial, who are you siding with? Because I like just the absolute hubris that Khosrow has. I
knew it.
enjoy that.
I knew it.
What are your
It's
thoughts?
so
Sarah?
bad for him. It's so bad for him. I think
I
it's
know,
such a
but
bad
it's
idea.
such a good character trait.
I like my characters flawed, but like if it had panned out, it would have been quite impressive.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it was his undoing. What are we rating right now?
this is
shock
scheminess
factor
and shock
is
factor.
scheminess.
Yes.
I would give shock factor to Khosrow and scheminess to Darius
Okay, fair enough. I can see that.
because I think that's the vibe I get from.
You know
each
what?
of them.
I would agree. I'd say I'd split it up that way as well. So
As you should.
Darius takes scheminess like he took battle hardness, and then Khosrow takes shock factor because of massive hubris and character flaws.
I was judging the narratively.
Yes, of course.
Yes,
That's part of it.
that's part of our.
It's part of our charm
What's it called? Our
format.
Yeah,
Genre conventions.
Yes.
Kriba. I don't know. The things that we use to decide because
Yes. Criterion.
yeah, our criteria because I'm most of the time I'm not judging on who was a better leader or who was a better person. Certainly, it truly comes down to like, okay, who's the most interesting story. So
Yeah,
That checks
sometimes
out.
it's more. It falls more to the side of who's the most entertaining
yeah,
to learn
Yeah,
about.
exactly. I mean, that's going to be the final question ultimately, but
No, if you were
So-
judging who was a good person, neither of these two.
No one's a good
nobody in
person.
this,
Not.
in this
Would be-
show.
It would be Kavad.
To be fair, I think shocking, but I think if we were judging the best person, as in with human values and stuff, I would give that to Khosrow. But because Dara doesn't have any values,
Yeah.
there's no
Absolutely.
soul. Yes.
I don't know if you listened
Yes.
to our episode in the rounds where we rated if we would like to like how much we would like to have a tea or a coffee with this person and sit down and talk to him. And I actually took points off of Darius because he scares me. I would not
Yes,
want to be in his
correct.
presence. As interesting as he is.
I completely understand.
I think it would end badly.
I'd want to
for me.
have that chat with any of his wives. They all
Yeah.
seem
Fun
times,
fascinating
yeah.
to me.
I want to have this chat with his sisters. I want to have a chat with his sisters, as in like babies, girls. Can we
Are you
talk
okay? Yes.
for a moment?
All right. So before we get to the final arguments, let's go on to Eren Shine, which is how good were they for the Empire? Like, if you're living under them, would you be having a good time?
Yes. To be fair, being alive during either Kurosha's or Darius's or Xerxes's rule, if you are looking to a time travel excursion to Achaemenid Iran, those three are the best ones. Because after... But yeah, I wouldn't go to the Sasanian Empire when Khosrow was alive. He's it was intense down there.
Just because there's always a precedent for the local nobility will draft you into a rebel army doesn't mean that was actually happening.
Oh yeah. You know, it could be, yeah. You have a point
Like,
there.
But no, I think that being conquered in the first place aside, when you weren't the active site of conflict, Khosrow was a great king to be living under. He was generally one of the more tolerant and accepting kings religiously. He
True.
was more equitable to different Christian and Jewish sects than the Romans ever were, despite being hypothetically the Christian monarchy. He expanded power without having too much direct impact on most of the imperial heartland. We get there's this tendency to treat Ctesiphon, and Ctesiphon being sacked is like the heart of the Persian Empire has fallen. Ctesiphon is a border capital that gets sacked in historical terms all the time.
Yeah.
And Heraclius never actually makes it inside the city. He just burns the fields around it, which happens to most ancient cities on a regular basis. Iran itself and southern Mesopotamia are left mostly untouched. Those core places where the empire always finds its footing are completely functional throughout Khosrow's reign. So functional, in fact, that they do become places that can rebel because there's no outside threat, and those rebellions are generally brief with Bishtam. Nothing that happens after Khosrow is really his fault. Kavad II destroyed the succession plan and initiated a gigantic civil war that destabilized the empire forever. But Khosrow had a succession plan. He had a favorite son who he was preparing to take the throne when he was gone. When Mesopotamia was directly threatened, and he did lose that battle at Nineveh, he didn't flee to the eastern end of the empire and try to hide in Bactria. He stayed near Ctesiphon, tried to rally his forces, but that takes more time than marching in to the palace and assassinating somebody. But his actual actions as an administrator inspired great loyalty from tributaries, including the Georgians, who held out in Tbilisi despite Roman offers to just switch sides. And he spread Persian culture in a way that he doesn't usually get a ton of credit for. We get a Middle Persian language copy or fragment copy of a version of the Alexander Romance in Egypt in this time. So it's the most Iranization that we've seen at that point outside of Iran proper in several centuries.
And just to add my little pint, it is true that under Khosrow's rule is when it starts, the Avesta starts being copied and puts it, on actual sources that they can be passed and copied and read. It's an effort that is going to take centuries, but it is very important for the history of religion and especially the history of Zoroastrianism, because it's at this point when the Middle Persian versions of the Avesta start being created. So that is absolutely fabulous. We wouldn't have the Avesta if it wasn't for this joint effort. So good job, Khosrow, I think. I accept that I have a very, very perfect and valid candidate against I am going through. However, I don't want to lean too much on my final argument, but basically, this is something I always repeat, which is Kurosh Cyrus was not a king of kings. He was a king, the king of Anshan. Then Dara comes along, and we have the satrapies, because the territory is much larger just to control it by one single capital. Like I said before, he used the previous Assyrian road system and enlarged it and created a whole system of roads that could take you from one part from the empire to the opposite in basically no time, which is impressive because it's a lengthy empire. It's very, very big. Also, we have, the minting of the coin. The administration was divided in different branches, which was very effective, and it proved to be very, very nice for the empire. And also regarding religion, exactly as Khosrow, because these kings are not that interested. The religious aspect was not that important for the Achaemenids. We assume that they were practicing some kind of Mazdaism based on the sources that remain and based on basically on the inscription on Beisun, which says that Ahura Mazda appointed Dara as his successor, his entity, his representative on Earth. But again, that could be Dara just being Dara. And also regarding Achaemenid culture, and I'm not gonna say like Persian in general because I'm talking about the true Achaemenid artistic language. Persepolis, Susa, many buildings in Elam in Egypt were built, and they created the visual language that now we associate with the Achaemenids, taking everything, every bit from the places they conquered, like Assyria, like parts of Greece, like parts of the eastern borders. And they conveyed everything in a series of buildings with a decorative style very distinct that now we point as Achaemenid. And also the representation of a whole empire in just one city. That is absolutely wonderful.
That is cool.
This whole discourse of better together against the exterior and the one rule, we know is propagandistic and is just a wish that was being projected by Dara. Nonetheless, the artistic effort was there. The trilingual effort was there. And I do think that the Iranian side of it got really benefited because, and I don't want to say this because this is my final argument, but yeah, I'm playing mysterious, but it's just one sentence what I want to say. So yeah, I think it was like from an art history point of view, I really like seeing kings from something else than battle hardness. And for example, Khosrow's cultural legacy cannot be discussed because he features in the Shahnameh. That means he was still relevant centuries after. So, these parts, those should be considered too.
Yeah.
Art for the win.
Very good points. Cyril, do you have any thoughts on the matter? Anybody is swaying you in particular?
It's so difficult because I
mean,
think
we've eliminated every other king.
The period with Darius might have been potentially more stable, but also he did create a lot of instability right at the beginning of it to like take over, which is never a good thing.
We have all been young, Sariel.
Who hasn't destabilized an empire?
Yeah, exactly. And Khosrow also has the issues that come like after him that is obviously going to make and the fact that like that it is a period of more instability, but like Trevor pointed out, like he left everything. Like if everyone had followed his plan, things would have been fine.
Yes, if only he died like 10 years before, then okay, greatest king, tick, go, you're done.
Yeah. I really have a lot of trouble choosing here. What did we say? Like what?
Also for Khosrow, unfortunately doesn't have enough of a visual language because the massive relief 20 times larger than the base inscription just next to it is just blank because they didn't have time to finish it.
See, you have to distribute better. You have to distribute better your sources and your time and your effort. Exactly. You don't want to die without a visual legacy.
Yeah, the legacy of Behistun is really, you need to start carving it before you're done doing the wars that you want to inscribe on the monument. And then you can just tell the scribes to brute force a pointy hat into the end of the picture.
Yeah, assume you're going to do something cool and it'll work out. But yeah, so the scores we gave Sarah, we gave Darius a full 20 out of 20 for Aaron Shine, while Khosrow got a 14 out of 20 because of the fact that it ultimately doesn't end well. But he did a great job while it lasted.
Yeah, I did not expect our score for Darius to be that high, but okay. I
We were
guess
young and
there's not many-
inexperienced,
focus on
Cyril.
that.
This
There's
was
not
3 years ago.
fully.
Don't focus
many-
on that.
Yeah, I
Don't.
know. I was gonna say there wasn't that many downsides aside from the original.
Aside from him being him, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
He
No,
is his own
for like the
downside.
people for the people de a pie living. You know.
I love you when you do that.
normal, people just living in the fields and living their lives. I guess merchants. So a lot of like help from the empire with money and all of that. I don't know.
So I'm tending towards Darius because it
Me
ultimately
too.
ends well. Okay,
Yeah.
very well. So
Me
if we
too.
both agree,
But I do agree that Khosrow does have a fairly like good, like he did well as the empire, as far as the empire is concerned.
yeah, no, absolutely. So okay, so we're giving this one to Darius. So ultimately, Darius has most of the categories, with Khosrow running away with shock factor only.
It's also, listen, Khosrow also made the choice of just having a way too big ego and like
Hey.
condemning everything. Like that is his fault.
Choices are fair.
He could have
but-
just not done that.
Oh, fair.
So
Like, if you want to go with who had consequences for a king 5 or 6 rulers down the line, Darius did empower Macedon to grow and become more of a expansionist kingdom. The fact
This
that
is
it took
pushing it a
200
bit.
years for 5 or 6 Achaemenid kings to pass, while the Sassanids did it in about 12 years, notwithstanding.
Hey. It's number of kings wise, number of episodes, it's pretty much the same amount to the fall. But yes, so now it's time for the final arguments, because points aren't everything. If there were points, Darius would have won and that's it. But we want to see, okay, basically, if we had to erase one from history and only know about the other, who is the best to know about? Who is the one that is the most King of Kings? And I'd say, Trevor, you can start, and then Plumas can conclude.
All right. Darius is a great historical mystery. There's no getting around that. There's so many things that are intriguing about that story. But Khosrow provides a historical character. There's a reason he is in the Shahnameh, and why the Shahnameh is one of the primary sources we have to learn about him is because he is a character straight out of epic poetry, whether you're looking at from Ferdowsi or from Al-Tabari or from any of the Roman sources.
Mhm.
That is the narrative we get, is this character who, a humble beginning is not quite accurate to a prince, but
no.
he's beaten
Let's
down
not
almost
push it.
immediately and rises up to a greater height than any monarch in his view of recorded history had ever been. The last time the Persian Empire looked like what he had conquered was in mythology. And then he flew right up to the sun and has this spectacular crash, ending in this picture perfect acceptance of defeat at the hands of his own friends and family, while still resisting the Romans. It's a character arc that you don't usually get from real historical figures, but it's so well reflected across so many sources. It's in there regardless of the epic poetry.
Very good point. And Plumas, what are your final arguments?
Okay, I'm going to make this brief because it is very short. Dara is the only reason we are talking about the Achaemenid Empire today. Because people tend to focus on Cyrus a lot and to rescue the memory of Cyrus. But were not for Dara, there would not be an Achaemenid Empire. Cyrus was never an Achaemenid. He was an Achaemenid by marriage. Dara is the one that creates a myth, a legend, and a proper empire to call Achaemenid. And he is the one who gets in contact with other people strongly and stupidly and dramatically enough that it raises an interest and it brings the other people from the exterior to talk about them. Everything that you look at in Iran, regarding the Achaemenids, of course, I'm saying, it's connected to Dariush at some point, at some level. He even faked history. He faked a whole discourse of history. And that plot was wild and stupid enough that it appeared in sources from all over the world because it was truly unbelievable. So to me, we owe him this much. We owe him the memory and the creation of the real Achaemenid Empire, because all the Achaemenids that came after, yes, they went back to Korosh because Dara was the first one to go back to Cyrus and to say, yes, we are from the same family. There's a myth of foundation. There's a myth of this, of this dynasty, and we're going to put our name in history, and Dara did. He lied to us all. He's the biggest liar in history. He's the most intelligent liar in history. He lied to us all, and the world believed him. Today, we still are discussing what really happened and what really was there or wasn't there, what was creation, what was reality. Perhaps none of these happened. We would never know. But for me, the importance of Dariush is that he pointed towards the east and said, hey, do you know what's here? Greatness. And the world will know. So that, to me, that's the only argument I have in favor of Dara being not erased from history. I'm sorry, Khosrow. But yeah, that will be it. He is the reason we're talking about the Achaemenids.
That was very good. Thank you. And well, Serial, it's time to make a final decision.
Oh, come on. Can we just let them
Ultimately.
discuss ad
No.
infinitum and then I can just,
It's been several episodes.
God, this is really difficult. I think okay, so my way of thinking is I think people already know about Darius, and a different king deserves to also be known. But also it is a good point that if people already know about Darius, it's for a reason. If there has to be one representative of the Persian Empire and Persian history, it should be him.
I was about to make the same point. That it's but people I already knew about Darius when I started this.
Exactly.
But when, I had a vague knowledge of Khosrow from, Byzantine history and all that knowledge, but most people probably don't know.
I did not know about him at all. Yeah.
And also, I did kind of write a poem for Khosrow II, so that's my own bias.
Yeah, true.
But that's separate.
This is extremely difficult. I wish we could just leave it at that and be choose your better known and lesser known.
Choose your own adventure. We need to create a choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've done that. It's hard.
Yes, it is. I think that my heart is with Khosrow, I would say, because I like the tragedy that he lives through. I like everything going wrong for him twice and him getting back up twice and then falling.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, and I like that he is lesser known. Yes. But I understand the Darius angle.
You know what? If we give it to Khosrow, Darius is not really losing anything. He's just going to be as famous as he is.
I was going to say,
people are going to know about him anyway.
Darius is still first place in scores. Also, I will say
there's no way that Darius will
exactly
create an.
But if we,
oh no.
If we do give it to Darius, then everyone will forget about Khosrow again. So I think we should give it to Khosrow and have people actually looking to someone else and discover this thing.
You know what? I'm going to throw a final thing on the table, and that final thing is that I need to be coherent with my own narrative as a creator, and I always say that I live and breathe the Book of Kings. So who's in the Book of Kings? Khosrow is. So definitely, if Khosrow is the gate that takes all the people in the world to get to know the Book of Kings, I am willing to accept that he is the true, beautiful King of Kings of Kings.
Yes.
The unthinkable has happened.
Yes.
Plumas has given
Plumas
her
has
vote
finally
to
vouched
Khosrow
against
well.
Darius.
No,
Okay,
not against Darius. In favor
Oh,
of
never.
Khosrow. It's not the
Never
same.
against.
Yes, apologies.
He's still perfect. I mean, that is still perfect, and unfortunately, he still features in not many, but more history books. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well then, Cyril, I think we agree that
We did it.
Khosrow II, Khosrow Parviz, is the true king of kings. And he wins, so you think
Forever
you can
and
rule
ever.
Persia because we think that he should be more known. So
Yeah.
congratulations,
Exactly.
Khosrow.
Congratulations,
And
Khosrow
Darius,
Parviz.
you're still first in score, so it's still fine. People
And you're
aren't
still
going to
first
forget
in my
you.
heart, so
Yes.
that doesn't matter.
You're
Also-
still going to be well known.
Yes. So Trevor, you did a very good job at playing devil's advocate, because who were you rooting for, really?
Yet again, Darius'
Yeah.
candidate
I
wins
am
shock factor.
shocked because I was
We're
and
not
You did a
am
very good job,
controversial on this
100%
podcast.
in
Exactly.
favor of Darius.
I mean, I'm just happy that the Skandar is nowhere to be seen.
No. Far, far away.
And
So-
again, I have to correct my ways. Sariel, thank you for making that happen. For kicking him out. I love you. You know I do.
Yes,
No
they were
problem.
very good at that. Yes. And okay, so thank you to our lovely guests for joining. We had a lovely time. Thank you to everybody for having listened to us for the past 100 and something episodes. It's been a long
Impressive.
road. Serial, do you have anything to say? Do you have any special notes on our intro?
I'm really sorry. I thought you were going to ask Sariel, so Sariel, do you think you can rule Persia?
Absolutely not. I've already
We have
tried.
proven
I
in the
did
Choose Your Own
badly.
Adventure that Serial cannot. Serial gets murdered at the age of 60. But, close
Well,
enough.
I mean, I live,
You lived a
a long
reasonably
time.
good
I
time.
just
yeah.
don't do very well. All right. Well, we hope that you have enjoyed this journey with us and that you've had a really fun time. And hopefully you've learned a little bit, just like I did. But fret not, because we will be back with a second season of even more
horror.
Persian rulers and with a brand new intro. And we will see you very soon, I think, possibly in a couple of months, because we all need a break. So look forward to So You Think You Can Rule Persia Season 2, coming soon.
Yes, rating and reviewing all the kings from Dayaki to Muhammad Reza Pahlavi. So exciting times for all. So yes, we've done this to ourselves. It's going to last several more years. It's our own fault.
Says the person
But
who's
hey.
doing the research.
Correct.
This
yes.
was your choice.
This was my own fault. I've made my bed, now I'll lie in it. So
All
thank
right.
you all for listening. Thank you to our
Thank you
lovely
so
guests.
much,
Again,
Trevor
remember,
and Plumas.
check out
Thank you.
History of Persia and Las Plumas de Simurg.
I've had a blast. Thank you so much for inviting us. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having
And
us.
Yeah, thank you.
Our pleasure.
And lots of love and looking forward to listening to that second season, boys.
Thank you. Well then, have a lovely day, and thank you all for joining. Goodbye.
Bye.
Khodafez.